If you're in cybersecurity, there's one name you just can't seem to shake: LockBit. I mean, despite major international takedowns, arrests, even massive internal leaks, this ransomware as a service giant has proven to be unbelievably resilient. And now, just when you think they might be down for the count, they're back with a pretty significant upgrade: LockBit 5.0.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll talk about that incredible resilience. Then we'll get into the weeds of the new malware itself, LockBit 5.0, and look at its pretty scary evasion techniques. After that, we get a rare peek inside their actual criminal business model, thanks to a leak. And finally, we'll wrap up with what we can actually do to defend against this.
All right, Section 1, the resilient threat. And this is really the core of the story, right? How on earth does a group like this survive everything that's been thrown at them and just keep coming back?
Okay, this timeline really tells the whole story. They pop up in 2019. Then, fast forward to February 2024, and law enforcement hits them with Operation Kronos, a huge takedown. Just a few months after that, boom, they get hit with an embarrassing internal leak. Now, you'd think for most groups, that's game over. But nope. By September, they've already launched LockBit 5.0. It's this constant cycle. They get knocked down, they get back up, and they evolve.
And if you need proof of how fast they recover, get this: over 150 known victims in just 3 months after that massive international takedown. I mean, this tells you everything. This is not some scrappy group on the ropes. This is a professional operation with what is essentially a corporate disaster recovery plan. It's kind of wild.
So that brings us to the million-dollar question, doesn't it? How do they do it? How are they back and, frankly, more dangerous than ever before? Well, the answer isn't just about spinning up new servers. It's about fundamentally re-engineering their core product, the malware itself.
Okay, Section 2. Let's get into the nuts and bolts. Inside LockBit 5.0. This isn't just a fresh coat of paint. This is a major architectural shift designed for one thing: hitting the entire enterprise as stealthily as possible.
And man, look at this list of capabilities. They've totally re-architected this thing to beat modern defenses. The big one here is that it's now cross-platform, so it can hit your Windows clients, your Linux servers, and even your ESXi hypervisors. That's a huge deal. Plus, it's packed with aggressive new ways to bypass EDR tools and all sorts of stealth nodes to make a defender's job a nightmare. So the real dark magic behind this version is a new two-stage execution model. Think of it like a secret agent's gadget. The first part is just a super stealthy loader. Its only job is to sneak past your security. It does that by hiding the main payload inside a trusted Windows process, something totally normal like dfrag.exe. Then, once it's safely inside, the second stage, the actual ransomware, kicks off and does all its damage right from memory.
Right. Let's dive even deeper. Section 3, Advanced Evasion Techniques. To make that loader so sneaky, the developers packed it with a whole suite of tricks designed specifically to blind the very security tools that are supposed to be watching for this stuff.
First up, we've got library unhooking. So you know how EDR tools work, right? They put these little hooks into critical Windows libraries, like NTDLL, to monitor for malicious API calls. Well, LockBit 5.0 basically just says, nope. It reloads clean original copies of those libraries right from the disk, overriding the EDR's hooks in memory. And just like that, poof, your EDR is effectively blinded before the real attack even starts.
Next, they use this as their camouflage. It's called process hollowing, and we touched on it, but it's super clever. The malware starts a completely legitimate, trusted program. Again, think dfrag.exe, but it starts it in a paused state. Then it carves out the legitimate code from memory and just shoves the ransomware payload in its place. When the process starts back up, all your security tools see is boring old dfrag.exe running. But in reality, that's LockBit encrypting your files.
And the final piece of this nasty trio is ETW patching. ETW, or Event Tracing for Windows, is basically the black box flight recorder for your system. It's what gives forensic investigators the breadcrumbs they need to figure out what happened after an attack. LockBit just finds the function that writes those events and overwrites it with a single return instruction. It completely breaks the recording system, wiping away the digital trail.
But here's the thing. LockBit isn't just slick malware, it's a slick business. And thanks to that huge internal leak back in May of 2025, we got this incredible, unprecedented look at how this whole criminal enterprise actually runs.
So yeah, some unknown actor gets into their affiliate panels, defaces them with this wonderfully ironic message, and then leaks a treasure trove of their internal data. We're talking chat logs, crypto addresses, the whole shebang.
And those leaked chats are fascinating. You really see the different personalities of the attackers. You've got Christopher, who's all business, very process-driven. Then there's Swan, who uses high-pressure tactics and has made over $1.6 million. And then you have Loficdis, who's just blunt and, well, less polished. It shows you that we're not up against one single entity. It's a whole ecosystem of different criminals using the same platform.
And just like any other business would do after a security breach, LockBit adapted. To harden their own infrastructure, they threw in a CAPTCHA and started charging a $500 access fee for new affiliates. It just goes to show they're constantly iterating, not just on their malware, but on their business operations too.
So, the big question. Facing this kind of evolved professional threat, what can security teams like yours actually do? Well, the focus really has to shift from just blocking a piece of malware to disrupting an entire criminal operation.
Here are 4 key strategies. First, you've got to monitor the illicit forums. That's your early warning system. That's where affiliates are buying access. Second, prioritize your patching. Don't just patch everything. Focus on the specific vulnerabilities you know these groups are actively using. Third, and this is critical, your security tools have to be based on behavioral detection. Static signatures are not going to catch things like library unhooking. And finally, prepare your response playbooks now, so you're not making it up as you go along when the pressure's on.
And that really brings us to the final thought here. LockBit 5.0 proves we're not just fighting lines of code anymore. We are defending against an intelligent, adaptive, and resilient criminal enterprise. So that forces us to ask a really important question. If the threat has evolved into a full-blown business, how do our defense strategies have to evolve to look beyond just the malware and start disrupting the entire criminal lifecycle?